and welcome to Wildly Curious, where the questions are unhinged, the science is real, and honestly, we're just getting started. I'm Laura.
And I'm Katie. And...
Ever wonder why a bat might glow? Or how frogs made it to space long ago? Dinosaurs trained for delivery runs. We're asking the questions, the weird ones. Wildly curious, where science gets strange and kinda hilarious. For nature's wonders to ancient funk, it's facts and fun rolled into one big chunk. Wildly curious, weird is wonderful. Come join the fuss.
I think the biggest question everybody has is your eardrums are probably just
What
blasted.
just happened?
Yeah, blasted. Guys, we have a theme song. Like,
we're cool now.
right? So we'll do that little teaser at the beginning. Is there more to the song? Yes.
100%.
So it's so good. So you guys, at the end of this episode, we'll play the whole song for you. You really need to listen to it because it's phenomenal. I promise you'll have it stuck in your head, which is exactly what we want.
Yeah. I know we really need to get it on something like, can we just put the song on YouTube so that people can get
Yeah,
just the song?
no, we totally can. Yeah, we totally can. So we have that big announcement. We have new merch. So if you go to bewildlycurious.com, you can see all the new merch that we have. There are some gems of merch in there. So make sure you guys go check all of that out. We have some other things in the works. So I think that's all we're going to share now.
Yeah, but more is coming. As always, Katie and I are always scheming for the next thing.
Always scheming
it's
for the
always
next
growing.
thing. Yeah.
And we're on season 12.
Can you believe it? Which is why we told you guys at the end of season 11, like, I had that theme song done partway through season 11, and I was dying. But I was like, no, we got to wait till the new season because we knew we had all this other stuff that we had to launch. And so I've been waiting so long. So make sure you guys stick around to the end, like I said, and listen to it.
It is like crazy catchy.
So we have a lot of crazy, exciting stuff going on. We're growing 106 countries that we're listened to around the world right now, which is mind-blowing. It's just been crazy. One might say it's been a wild ride.
Jeez.
I had to throw that in there. All right. So on our episode for today, we're going to be talking about the wildlife in your walls, basically your home's hidden ecosystems. And we're going to be talking about how we share our homes with surprising amount of uninvited roommates.
It's so creepy.
It is.
There was some that I knew I had to cover, and then just one that I know nothing about that I looked up, which was fun.
One I was so disgusted and laughed about. I kind of knew a little bit about both of them. All right. So, Laura, you think your roommates are messy? A toddler. But try living with over 2,000 bacterial species in your belly button. Yep.
I mean, I'm sure I do.
Yeah, well, you are now. So that limp trap in your torso, it's basically the Amazon rainforest of your body. So
Okay, you said lint trap, but it sounded like you said limp chap. And I was like, what? Your limp chap? What kind of name for a belly button is that?
Your limp chap? No, your lint trap in your torso.
Okay.
So we didn't know that all these actually existed before until some scientists got curious.
They got bored and they were like, let's start swabbing belly buttons.
Right? Well, there is some method to this madness here. So it all started in about 2010 with the launching of the Belly Button Biodiversity Project from North Carolina State and the Museum of Natural Sciences.
Okay.
So they swabbed 60 belly buttons.
Oh, that's not that many.
Well, it gets better. Why swab 60 belly buttons of questionable strangers? Simply because they were looking for a way to engage people in microbiome research and microbial research.
Or it was someone's weird fetish.
Yeah, right. Belly button.
Tickle a belly button. Hey, could I just probe your belly button?
Yeah, right. Can I swab it? I really want to swab it. Just like anyway.
I was going to say any orifice will do sometimes.
So during this time, 2010-ish, surprisingly, microbiome research was exploding. I mean, that's relative, you know. 'Cause if you're in the field-
everyone's like, I didn't hear about this.
yeah. This isn't like our, what did we say, the dinosaur renaissance or anything?
Yes,
Like, this
yes.
is a very...
Everyone did hear about that one.
yeah, this is a pretty niche explosion here. So they decided that even though it was getting big in the science field, it was getting big in only the science field. And so,
let's be honest.
yeah. So the microbiome research, the ones that was exploding, no pun intended here, but most of it focused on gut or disease-causing bacteria through in your intestines. And that's whenever we started finding out things like the different gut health and how important that was and everything. However, this project wanted to focus on our daily lives, plus getting people involved. So it wasn't just the scientists that knew. Part of this was that the people could actually swab their own belly button, thank God.
Some citizen science at its finest.
No, it ended up being that. And so the researchers didn't have to. But scientists also wanted to broaden that conversation outside of the world of scientists alone, like just the whole microbiome in general. So thus started the Belly Button Biodiversity Project, which was a citizen science project because this ongoing study wasn't just scientists studying in a lab. It's inclusive of all visitors, and they started actively outreaching and teaching people about the challenges and techniques behind the collections of scientific data. So they were essentially like, okay, we need to get people interested in microbiomes. What is that border of something that's gross but interesting? What is something that everyone deals with their daily lives and could be important? And basically, it's just like a really good marketing scheme that they ended up coming up with.
And then FYI, scrub your belly button.
And I say all of this stuff in the present tense because this is still actually an ongoing project. So let's get into what the actual project is besides swabbing your belly button. So like I said, the researchers started by swabbing just 60 belly buttons, but the project quickly took off and ended up collecting samples from over hundreds and hundreds of volunteers. Because apparently people were more than happy to just hand over belly button samples. So why the belly button? What makes it such a microbial hotspot? Well, unlike your hands or your face, your belly button isn't exactly getting exfoliated on the regular as often as people should be, I guess I could say. It's relatively untouched, rarely scrubbed too hard, and often covered up. Basically, it's a cozy, undisturbed,
dark, damp,
cave orifice in the middle of your body. And microbes love that. And several sources that I read, scientists even referred to this naval neighborhood as a pristine wilderness. An ideal place to study the skin microbiome without a bunch of outside interference and variables. And so that's what they were finding. Like, we've talked about the mites and stuff in your eyelash, your eyebrows and everything. But a lot of that is, do you wash your face every day? Or just brushing.
Right. Or like the amount of hand sanitizer that I use. You can't study my hands. They don't have that's the disturbed data. Whereas
like a belly button, it is for the most part undisturbed. I mean, considering
nobody's digging around in there for the most part or putting hand sanitizer in there.
just
after this episode, I might start.
Right. So what did they end up finding inside those belly buttons? It is kind of crazy or disturbing depending on how you feel towards microbes. So across those first 60 volunteers, they discovered 2,368 different bacterial phylotypes.
Wow.
So let me say that again. Across 60 volunteers, it was 2,368. So for the purpose of this study, a phylotype was defined as an organisms whose sequence is in the 16S rDNA gene, which is essentially the microbial fingerprint gene of all these things.
So different. We don't call them species, but different ones.
Yep. They studied how much that variation is from one organism to another, and it had to be by at least 3%. Because remember, identifying microbes is not as cut and dry as like identifying a bird. They're too small and varied to just go off of looks alone. So it has to be done by the percent variety in the DNA. Mm-hmm. So of those 2,000 plus phylotypes found, only eight were consistently found in about 70% of the participants.
Wow.
Right?
Everybody's got their own unique belly button biome.
Essentially, yeah. So the vast majority of phylotypes were only found once or twice. So Laura, here is our chance to discover a new species.
100%.
And it could just be in our belly buttons this entire time.
Whole time. This whole time.
This whole time? Right in my belly button? This whole time? Yes, right in your belly button. So researchers considered factors such as age, sex, ethnicity, innie versus outie, frequency of washing, all kinds of things. Yet none of those factors explain the differences in the number and kinds of bacteria we found on a particular person. So they did find of those 8 phylotypes, they were among the most abundant found in the belly button. So you have 8 that are found within 70%. And whenever you have, let's say, one of those 8, it's like you have a lot of that thing.
Some kind of staphylococcus, some kind of...
Yeah, no, exactly. And so, in fact, those 8 phylotypes accounted for almost 50% of the total abundance of bacteria in the samples. But still, that's only 50%.
Yeah, I actually would have thought it would have been more.
Right? And they aren't quite sure what the common denominator is of those people in predicting their belly button biome makeup will look like. They could not find any correlation between them at all.
AI will probably crack it one day.
Right?
Here's the correlation.
Right? A few of the 8 that were found that was part of the larger groups. Laura, you already said Staphylococcus, Corynebacterium, Acintobacteria, Clostridiums, and Bacilli, which are just the broader groups. What's even crazier, though, is that outside of these 8, not only did researchers find whole new species, but they found completely new lineages. Yeah. So it's not
Your
even
own belly button lineage.
No, right?
You've got a civilization in there and
right? A whole new one. So to put this in other terms, so it's not just you have our cardinals around here, let's just say. It's not like we found a different variety of cardinal. No, it's like we found a whole other weird type of, we know it's probably a bird, but it's so totally different. So the only other place that we've seen similar bacteria has been in places like thermal vents, ice caps, Japanese soil, and none of the volunteers had ever been to those types of places before.
What? Just extremophiles in your belly button? That's nuts.
Essentially.
That's so cool.
This isn't saying that these microbes hitched a ride long ago and somehow made it to your belly button. It's just in that percent variety that we talked about, how it had to be 3% difference kind of thing. That percent variety, the researchers were studying to determine if they were commonly found in belly buttons or not. There's also a percentage of their DNA that is closer to those species that are found in the thermal vents, ice caps, Japanese soil, all these other things.
Than to anything else we've ever found.
Yes. So to wrap all this up, what's the importance of this belly button diversity project? We need to know that without all of these different types of microbes, our immune system won't function properly, is what they ended up finding. I mean, because it's everything. And the connection between the belly button versus your gut, it's all kind of a evolving, how is it all connected sort of thing.
We need to be those walking bags of bacteria, even though we don't want to be.
Exactly. So the research showed that this collection of microbes in our belly button must have a certain composition. It must form that certain ecosystem, because that's the whole point of we're talking about the different ecosystems. It needs to have a certain ecosystem makeup in order for our immune systems to function properly. And so this work that they're doing, even though as funny as it is, yes, it's great that it's a citizen science project. It's awesome and everything. It is a significant step toward helping us understand which species are the most important players in those ecosystems for just overall public health in general.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so like I said, as silly as it is, I mean, it's good marketing. I mean, they got a bunch of people and they're still getting folks to help. And if you Google the Belly Button Diversity Project, you can see whenever they sent their samples in and they put it on the petri dish on the
all the stuff that would grow.
Yeah, so you can see it's all grow. And there are definitely some outliers of people who are this is interesting. They call up sample 958 was interesting because, they can't give out who these people were, So yeah, Belly Button Diversity Project, our first ecosystem, hidden wildlife in your walls.
And so it's so funny because once again, sometimes Katie and I are on the exact same page to a point where we have to keep choosing new things because we are chosen, or completely different. So you approach this as in wildlife in our walls and the tiny worlds, whereas I did species by species, things that live in our homes.
My next one is a little bit closer to what I think that you have, I think.
Okay. So what types of uninvited roommates do we have? One I knew I wanted to do because it'd be fun. One I knew I wanted to do because they're cool. And one I knew I wanted to do its type, but not specifically. So I wanted to focus on something also kind of gross.
I mean,
So
naturally.
Yes, naturally. So I was like, okay, we obviously must share a lot of fungi. There must be a lot of fungi that live in our houses. But not just mildew. Like, I want one that's, like, dangerous.
Yeah, dangerous. I want something that can kill us all.
Dangerous. So I looked up, and there's a lot of different fungi out there that live in our homes. Like, a ton of different ones that live in our homes. But this one is the acrimonium fungi. And it's really a genus, not a species. But acrimonium is 150 species are within this genus. Most are just found in the soil and are a normal part of the nutrient cycle of breaking things down and cycling nutrients back through. Some are plant, some are animal, and others are fungi and human pathogens. So most are just fine, and some are pathogenic, depending on what you are.
Okay.
Of the ones that are pathogenic, Strictum, Acrimonium corticola, Acrimonium kiliens, and Acrimonium rutilum are all found indoors. And we're just going to say strictum. A strictum and A kiliens are human pathogens. So two.
Okay.
2 of 150 are pathogenic to humans. And I was like, all right, great. So tell me about them.
Fantastic.
They're kind of hard to identify because they're related to molds and mildews and mushrooms. They can be gray, white, pink, or orange. So there's no like, well, if it's blue, then it's this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All it says is they can be those colors, and they typically smell bad.
Thanks.
Right. Probably need a mold expert or something to come. But like all fungi, they need moisture to survive. And that's what you're going to find a lot. With anything that lives in the human homes or the human body,
Yep.
they like the moisture.
It's so nice and
They
moist
just like
in
it.
here.
Yeah, they like it moist. So they need it to survive, and like all fungi, they produce spores, which is oftentimes the problem. So a fungi releases spores. Normally think of animals, it's reproduction through eggs. Spores are just little bits of them to go and make new fungi. So in our homes, they can be found on wood, concrete, fiberglass, wallpaper, plywood, drywall, insulation, and plaster. But they're also often found in our air conditioning systems, humidifiers, cooling coils, drain pans, and windowsills. Basically anywhere there's been water damage or where water is constantly. Because they like moisture.
And it's not water. It's moisture. It's moisture.
Yeah. So either it's not just, you can find it in dry wood. No, it's got to be like wood, water damaged wood.
Yeah.
But the problem is because it's a human pathogen, it can cause issues with our bodies. So typically, it only causes problems with those that are already immunocompromised, but it has affected people who are healthy too. It can cause chronic infections if it penetrates the skin. So let's say you're working in your basement and you're redoing things and it's on this wood. You get a nail into you and it gets into your skin, chronic skin infections. So one after another. It can grow in your lungs, forming what might be the grossest term I've heard in a long time, a pulmonary fungal ball.
Ew.
Apparently that's normal with all fungi that you inhale. It creates like a ball in your lungs of fungus. I was like,
jeez. Yeah. No thanks.
It can cause growths in your gastrointestinal tract. It can be toxic if you eat it, but there is no record of a human death that way. Nobody's munching on this, thankfully.
I was going to say, who's out there just gnawing on a piece of dry wood like, Yeah.
If it enters your bloodstream and it is disseminated through the body, you really get it in there. It can cause major issues, including death. Like, you could just straight up die.
I'm laughing only because you said if you, really get it in there.
Yeah.
I'm just
it penetrates deep.
Deep.
And then it can just cause and exacerbate allergies. For those who might not be immunocompromised, it's just going to make your allergies worse. But for other people, or if you penetrate it in too deep, death.
Yeah, death.
So how do you keep this from happening to you? First of all, you find the underlying cause and you stop it. So if there is water damage in your home, you need to deal with it. And this all hits very close to home because recently, like this past spring, we started noticing that in the house that we bought almost 2 years ago now, there was mold on the drywall. And Justin and I are frantically trying to figure out what kind of mold is it? Should we call in somebody? What should we do about it? And I'm trying not to freak out about it because of what if this is a health concern.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, I had a house that was mold and like that too, and I was constantly sick without realizing why am I all of a sudden sick all the time? And it was mold.
Yeah. So, really, if you have some serious mold issues, you should definitely call a mold specialist. What we ended up doing was dealing with it ourselves, and it turned out to not be as big of a problem as we thought. But I was like, you need to be wearing, I got him a respirator. And a bodysuit,
no, that was smart.
Like everything. But yeah, so find the underlying cause and stop it. And then you have to deal with the removal of that mold and then preventing it from coming back. So it's not like a lost cause, but if you see mold and mildew, or if you know that your house is flooded, or if you know that there is water sitting somewhere in your basement, you've got to do something about it. Because the mold's not the only thing that's coming.
Yeah, no, for sure not. Nice one. Killer molds.
Killer molds.
All right, so let's move on. What just happened to my desk? The whole thing just shook, and it wasn't me. So, ghosts. Great. Now let's move on to another tiny world. So for me, I really honed in on the ecosystem part of
No, I love it. I love microcosms and microecosystems.
So if your belly button is the rainforest, I'm not sure what the space behind your fridge is, but
ooh, mine is gross. Well, it was until we got a new fridge.
Yep. It gets pretty nasty. It's like a swampy, overheated, insect-fested.
Talk about another place where there's mildew growing right on the wall. From our old fridge, right along the wall, you could see mold. Now that we got
most
a new
people don't
fridge,
even know. Most people don't even know.
It's awful.
Yep. All right, so let's talk briefly about what makes the space behind your fridge more than just an appliance graveyard for lost magnets and runaway Cheerios. Sometimes I write these things and I'm like, oh, that's actually, I read them and I'm like, oh, it's actually kind of funny. Kind of clever. Good job, Katie. So this whole thing really, truly is a microclimate. A small, specialized environment that's totally different from the rest of your kitchen. Why? Because refrigerators, by design, dump heat out the back. That's how they stay cool inside, by transferring all the warm air out. So now take that heat, trap it in a poorly ventilated space against a wall.
Yeah, why did we do that?
I don't know, man. Add in an occasional spill, moisture leak.
The drain pan? Yeah, at the bottom, because a lot of
drain
them have drain pans.
Crumbs falling down. You've just created a perfect humid heat pocket.
Oh, yeah.
And that is exactly what microbes, mold, insects are looking for in a absolute pristine,
it's like
perfect
cockroach
home.
metropolis.
Right? It's warm. It's moist, like we said. It's
full of food.
Undisturbed. Yeah. And it has snacks.
And it's got a wonderful hum. It's like
right? That great white noise. Dude, it's probably like a bug spa back
That's what
there.
I'm saying.
Like,
it's something.
With like snacks. Yeah. See, it's paradise.
In the drain pan, just little arms down to the side.
Hanging out.
Crumbs.
It's got to be perfect. So we all know that that's just like a gross part. I mean, how many of our listeners actually clean out behind the fridge? So let's get into a little bit more detail about what exactly you can find behind your fridge. So first up, same thing as I just talked about, microbes, because why wouldn't those be back there as well?
Nice soup.
Right? So some of these, unsurprisingly, are also some of the ones that are found in your belly button, which is not a sentence I ever thought I would say. Did you know that the same microbes that are behind your refrigerator can also be found in your belly button?
That's one of those things where people are like, ooh, didn't even know that one. Thanks.
So, yes, mold is a microbe. And what was the one you were going over?
Acromonium.
Okay, this is aspergillus.
Oh, yeah, that's the kind that kills birds.
Okay.
But also very common in the human home.
Yeah, clearly. So aspergillus and penicillium, which are both found in indoor environments that love moist, dusty corners. Then we have bacterium like the Bacillus subtilis, which is like the Bacillus is that big group that I said also found in your belly button.
Which I think we've covered that before in a past episode about
I feel
bacteria.
like we did.
Yeah.
But these are also common in household dust and decaying food particles. Now, microbes aren't the only thing living back there because, as you can imagine, these living things are back there throwing a bacterial block party, essentially. So there's an unending supply of crumbs, and vertebrates are going to make their way back there too.
100%.
Number one, cockroaches. They're
Definitely.
around everywhere. Everybody's, cockroaches are a sign of someplace dirty. No, they're everywhere.
They
just
freaking loved under our fridge when we had cockroaches.
yeah, they're everywhere. And again, that's what people think of. Oh, if you have cockroaches, it's dirty, whatever. No, it's just they're insects. They're going to find a way. So they love that, and they're normally drawn towards warm, dark, humid places. Another one, silverfish. Now, silverfish are a more primitive species that is wingless and found in the order Zygentoma.
I'm glad you're talking about this because this was going to be one of mine.
Oh, good. So it gets its name, silverfish, because of its color, which is being slightly gray, but how it also wiggles in the way it moves, which is kind of resembles how a fish looks in the water with wiggling back and forth.
Yeah.
So they can be found pretty much all over the world. They'll eat literally paper, glue chunks that, art that fell off the fridge, dead skin cells, cereal, whatever. They'll eat it. Some other inverts found are a variety of ant species, of course. Basically, if it's an ant that can get in your home, it's going to also live back there because it's like, sweet, this is amazing. And the last one I'll mention is the house centipede.
Don't talk about it too much.
Which I won't. But these are the ones that have the long, like the ones I'm talking about are like the long wispy ones, not the menacing looking centipedes. All right, so inverts loving appliances is not something new. And one study in 2006, they published in the Journal of Economic Entomology, which I'm like, I need to read into that one more, found that all the pest behavior in urban kitchen, researchers found that the areas around appliances, especially refrigerators, were high-risk zones for infestation.
It's got it's the warmth, too. Like,
yeah,
right?
no, exactly.
Warm. Why would you not want to live where it's warm and dark and moist, all the things that you need?
Yeah. So it's never been a question that behind appliances have long served as a hot, cramped, covered in crumbs insect dive bar. I don't know what else to call it.
It's totally what it is.
No, it really is, though. So now that I said a lot of stuff that's really not all that shocking, but if you remember that the whole point of this episode, like I said, was talking about ecosystems in your home. Now, the space behind your fridge isn't just a mess. It's a full-on functioning food web-induced ecosystem, if you think about it. So you have your producers, and most ecosystems producers are plants here. Your producers are the fungi, bacteria, the molds that specialize in breaking down organic material so that your breadcrumbs, food bits, or whatever other sticky spills that somehow glued the twist tie to the floor, those are the decomposers. They turn junk into nutrients, which leads to the next level up, which is your consumers, the invertebrates. Cockroaches, silverfish, ants, they eat those decomposers or the leftover crumbs directly, depending on the species. Some will feed on the mold, some chew on through cardboard, whatever's back there. And if you're lucky within this ecosystem, you'll have some predators, which keeps everything in check. So you got your spiders, house centipedes patrolling the perimeter. They're the apex predators of your fridge biome or behind your fridge biome. And they keep things from turning into a full-on infestation. Yeah. So while most people are like, I don't want to do spiders, it actually can be beneficial, at least behind your fridge. Yeah. The bouncers of the dive bar. And all of this life cycle is playing out because of the non-living parts of the ecosystem. The heat, the low airflow, humidity, steady supply of organic matter. So that entire system thrives because of its undisturbed, warm, and just gross to be alive, but it has its structure, and so it really is a little ecosystem. So the big takeaway here, you don't have to go to the Amazon or deep into a cave to even leave your kitchen to find a fully functioning ecosystem. You can look behind your fridge or in your belly button.
Or in your belly button.
Or in your belly button.
Well, you might not see that one, but you'll definitely see the one behind your fridge.
Yeah, you'll definitely see the one behind your fridge for sure.
Well, Katie brought up two species that I just wanted to highlight. So she did the belly button and the bacteria. I did kind of the fungi and how mold interacts in your home. She just did behind the fridge and the invertebrates that live there, and then mentioned two invertebrates that I just wanted to highlight just to talk about those roles within the ecosystem. So the silverfish, backstory here. We had silverfish in my house growing up, but you'd usually only find them in a book or like something that you haven't moved for a while, right? Yeah. And I'll never forget, I had a friend over once, and shout out to Sarah, who's been on one of these episodes before. Yep. She was like, we saw one, and she just starts going, silverfish, and just like freaks out.
What? Over a
It
silverfish?
was so funny, yes. I don't even know if it was quite that dramatic, but in my head, it will always be that dramatic.
In my head.
So the silverfish, like Katie said, that they're where they're living, so I'm not going to go into that. But what's kind of cool is they're made to eat plant material because their tiny little mouth parts are made for scraping, and they actually release a digestive enzyme to break it down on the outside. So they're like regurgitating stuff to then just scrape it up, which is why when you look in a book and you see little tiny holes in the pages, that's actually from its little rasping. So they're made to break down cellulose. Which
I just picture them and go, her.
Yeah. That's how I always imagine snails and stuff like that. Radula. So yeah, if there weren't people, silverfish would still be around. They would just be eating dead plant material. But since there are people around, books, boxes, wallpaper, and clothing are their main.
Just so crazy to be like their main source of food is stuff we've made.
Right. I love wallpaper.
I love a good wallpaper
glue.
Yeah.
But they also, like Katie said, are known to eat dry pet food and crumbs that are left out on the floor.
If it's there, they're going to eat it. I mean, why not?
Thankfully, as gross as some people think that they are, there are no harm to humans. No diseases, no pathogens, no biting. Nothing. Completely harmless. But the way to keep them out is keep your areas clean and dry and occasionally move things around. Don't leave books on a bookshelf for years. Move those books a little and you won't deal with them. But thankfully, even if you do have a problem with things like the cockroaches, the silverfish, there are things like house centipedes, which I knew I wanted. This is the one that I was like, I want to do this one more than anything because I just think they're cool, even though I also think they're terrifying.
Yeah.
If there's one thing in my house, I actually think that these are more creepy than spiders.
Really? Well, okay. Creepy, I would give it to you. Yeah.
But I have grown a lot as a person over the last few years. And I have started to make strategic alliances with things that live in my house. But house centipedes. You might not know what I'm talking about, but they do live all around the world, even though they're originally native to the Mediterranean. I didn't know that, but I guess they came when people moved here. So these are centipedes that have 15 pairs of really long legs.
Like wispy. Like they're very wispy.
Like hairs. It looks like a feather is floating across your floor until you realize it's not a feather. It's
and you need to smash it. No.
Yeah. So they get more pairs of legs as they grow up, like all centipedes. They start out with less, and they get more.
Yeah.
So including their legs and their antenna, they can get up to 4 inches long, which is respectable for a bug that lives in your house.
Yeah, right? I didn't realize it was that big.
I've seen one almost that big once, and I was like, oh!
Yeah, no, I've never seen one that big. Yeah.
Usually you're only seeing ones that are like 2 inches, maybe.
Yeah, max 2 inches, yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. that wasn't a creepy, it was like a woo. Like,
you're like, is she... Diggles just fell off the bed. He looked me dead in the eye, stretched, and then flopped off the side. I'm so sorry for laughing at you. He just held on with 2 paws and dragged himself back up.
Poor cat dog.
Mates. Okay, so their body is yellowish and they have 3 dark stripes running down their back. So that's the mental picture. Okay. Now, females can live several years, which is like entirely too long for bugs. But thank goodness they actually don't reproduce that much. They only produce about 150 babies in their lifetime, which again for a bug is
I was gonna say yeah.
And they come out and they hunt at night. They eat silverfish. What these things called fire brats, which look a lot like silverfish.
Yeah.
Carpet beetles, cockroaches, spiders, and any other small arthropod they come across.
Like we said, they're a tiny apex predator in your home.
They're little tiny tigers running around your house, eating everything else.
Yeah.
The more you see, the more prey that there is in your house. So if you start to see more and more of these, this is like the canary in the coal mine situation where you're like, best pay attention.
Yeah.
So they're a natural form of pest control and actually super beneficial. But if you try and pick them up, they can bite you and it feels like a bee sting. Not that I don't know why I'd want to pick them up, but if you do. So, again, you can kind of manage this home ecosystem, everything we've talked about here, through certain prevention and follow-up and things like this. With the centipedes, you just have to manage the other pest populations. They're not like any predator. We tell this at work all the time. If you see a snake, it tells you that you have mice in your garage, right?
Yep.
You get rid of the mice, the snakes leave.
Yeah, they're not going to stick around.
They're not sticking around if there's no food. So if you keep your areas dry and clean, that prevents the mold. It prevents the other invertebrates, and that prevents the centipedes. So just in general, although we might share our homes with a ton of uninvited roommates, anything from fungi to invertebrates to bacteria, we're part of an ecosystem.
Yeah.
And just like all ecosystems, they have to stay in balance. You can do things to help that balance by making sure your home is clean and dry.
Yep.
And other than that, you just have to pick your battles. What can you live with and what can you not live with?
Right. Yep. Unless it's your belly button, and you're kind of stuck with that for the most part, because it doesn't matter how much you scrub that, you're going to have bacteria. But it's healthy.
And it's a good thing, right? It's the same with the things in your house. Really, it's probably a good thing to have, like, constant. Because otherwise, your house is probably full of chemicals, which is not good.
I was going to say,
Like,
I was going to say, it's a checks and balances system, for sure, for sure. All right, guys, that's the season 12 kickoff. We're going to do this season very similar to the previous ones, where we do a long episode, short one. So next week, we're going to have a mini-sode, and I will wait. You guys can listen to that next episode to hear out what we're talking about. Make sure you go check us out on Patreon, subscribe to us on YouTube, and check out our other social media channels. Just search for us, Wildly Curious Podcast, and support us when you can.
And now to jam out to our latest song. Talk to you next week, guys.
Yes, this is the full version, so make sure we're gonna play it at the end of every single episode. The teaser at the beginning, then the full song at the end, because it's just way too much fun to not listen to. It really is. It really is. So we will talk to you guys next week.
Bye.
Ever wonder why a bat might glow? Or how frogs made it to space long ago? Dinosaurs trained for delivery runs. We're asking the questions, the weird ones.